What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take a look at the next big box expansion coming for Marvel Champions. It is the Mad Titan Shadow. It is, of course, the box that really is bringing in Thanos into Marvel Champions, which is kind of brilliant, and I am 100% entirely into it. Now, this is, of course, very interesting because I showed you a bunch of unconfirmed leaks a little while ago, and I told you, and they came out on April the 1st. So clearly nobody really believed them at first. But after taking a good long look at them, I told you I did believe them, I did think they were real. This was one of the products that was revealed. So if this is real, probably fair to say that the others are as well. So what do we have and what do we know? Well, we are told a few things. We are told this massive expansion contains a brand new campaign featuring 5 thrilling scenarios pitting you against members of the Zealous Black Order, including Ebony Maw, Proxima Midnight, Corvus Glaive, and of course, the Mad Titan himself. Now, that's interesting because, of course, if those are 4 of the 5 scenarios, we should have Black Dwarf and Supergiant, both of which are featured on the front of the box. We actually have 6 villains for 5 scenarios, so I'm not 100% sure exactly how that is going to work out. We'll have to wait and see. We do also, as we might expect, have 2 new heroes, those being Spectrum and Adam Warlock. We'll get to them in a moment. So we do have a bunch of things we can have a look at. Let's start off with Ebony Maw. Now, Ebony Maw, we've got a villain here with 2 scheme, 1 attack, and a forced interrupt. When Ebony Maw activates against you, you need to go ahead and remove an invocation counter from each spell card in your play area. That is going to take a little bit of explaining. And then we've got 14 hit points, so nothing too terrifying there. Although we need to figure out what these invocation counter things are. Now, the scenario we have here is Attack on Nowhere. It starts with 1 threat per player and adds 1 as we go. 6 threat will complete it. And when it is revealed, each player discards cards from the top of their deck until a spell environment is discarded and puts it in their play area. So it brings in a spell environment when it comes along with it. Want an example? How about Fireball? Now, it's got Surge if it comes out as an encounter card. It enters play with 4 invocation counters on it. Oh, seems like we're getting a bit of an explanation here. And as a forced response, after the last invocation counter is removed from it, you discard it and deal 4 damage to your identity. Oh, so it turns out invocation counters are good to be on there, bad when they all come off. Not a great thing. We've also got a look at the environment pacification. Comes in with Surge, and it enters play with 3 invocation counters on it. And when they're all gone, you discard it, exhaust each upgrade you control, and you are stunned. These are punishing cards. Now, we've also got Abjuration there, an attachment to go on Ebony Maw that prevents all damage done to it. And after it prevents 2 or more damage from a single attack, you discard it. Basically just saves you from 1 attack. That is quite a lot. We've also got 1 more attachment we can look at, and that is Restrained. You attach it to a friendly character with the highest attack and exhaust it. The attached character cannot ready. You've got to spend 2 resources, 1 energy, 1 physical, in order to discard it. Given that you cannot ready until it's discarded, you are going to pay those resources. You really don't have much choice. Now, it turns out once you beat Ebony Maw, you move on to Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive. So, you know how a moment ago I told you that there were 6 villains but only 5 scenarios? Well, it looks like we've already got our answer. Tower Defense, which is the scenario in question, is both Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive. They work together in their shared scenario, each of them placing threat on their own main scheme while drawing from the same villain deck. Cool. So Proxima Midnight here has 1 scheme 2 attack. Corvus Glaive has 2 scheme 1 attack. 8 and 9 hit points is extremely low. For a villain, 8 and 9 hit points is almost nothing. That is extremely low. Now, Proxima Midnight's got a forced interrupt. When she attacks you, you choose to either deal 1 damage to Avenger's Tower, or she gets +2 for the attack. Proxima Midnight cannot be defeated while Corvus Glaive has any hit points remaining. Corvus Glaive has a forced response, and after it makes an undefended attack, you discard the top card of the encounter deck and deal 1 damage to Avenger's Tower for each boost icon on the card you just discarded. And would you believe it, Corvus Glaive cannot be defeated while Proxima Midnight has any hit points remaining. So yes, they've both got extremely low hit points here, but you essentially have to take down the pair of them at once, or else it doesn't really work. Now, I keep referencing Avenger's Tower. This is an environment, and essentially, after damage is placed here, if there is at least 9 damage per player, you remove it all, and then you flip over Avenger's Tower. We don't really know what happens. It doesn't seem to suggest anything else, so it seems like it's just damage you essentially have to place there to get rid of it. We're not given any other information. We know that both of the villains can place damage on Avenger's Tower. We know that when Avenger's Tower takes 9 damage, you remove it and flip it, 9 per person, but we're not actually given any other information. And I'm looking at all the cards that have been revealed, and I'm looking at the text here in the reveal article. We're not actually told very much, unfortunately, which is a little bit sad. Now, we do also have Focused Defense here, and this basically is a permanent attachment. The villain who matches the attached scheme is the active villain, and after the player phase ends, you attach it to the other main scheme. So like we saw with, for instance, the Wrecking Crew, even though there are multiple villains around, only one of them is actually active and attacking or scheming every turn, which kind of makes sense. And given that Proxima Midnight's got 2 attack, but Corvus Glaive's got 2 scheme, you can see how there's going to be some strategy involved as to which one you need to focus on, etc. Now, of course, we do also have Thanos. No word on Black Dwarf or Supergiant. We can tell from the box they're going to be in it, but we don't have any cards to look at there. I'm assuming we'll see some of them in the future. So Thanos then comes in with 1 scheme, 2 attack, 16 hit points, which isn't terrifying. Oh yeah, but does have Stalwart, which says it cannot be stunned or confused. That is, yeah, that's a pretty big advantage for Thanos there, if I'm honest with you. And there is a forced response after the Infinity Stone deck runs out. Give Thanos 1 face-down boost card. Oh, yeah, there's an Infinity Stone deck. We will get there in a moment. We've actually seen all of the Infinities. No, we haven't. I'm lying to you. But we've seen a couple of them. We'll have a look in a moment. Now, the main scheme for Thanos is behind the scales. We've only got one side of it to look at. But when it is revealed, each player shuffles their discard pile into their deck. And each player removes the top half of their deck from the game. Of course, removing half, that sounds like a very Thanos thing to do. But oh my goodness, that sounds like an awful lot of fun. Unfortunately, again, we don't have a look at the other side of that. So, these Infinity Stones then, what are they all about? Well, Thanos actually starts the game with Infinity Gauntlet. It is a permanent setup card. Now, that gives an extra 1 scheme and 1 attack, which puts Thanos up to 2 scheme 3 attack, which is starting to look an awful lot better. And after the attached villain activates, that is, attacks or schemes, you resolve the special ability of each Infinity Stone in play. Otherwise, you put the top card of the Infinity Stone deck into play. Yes, it actually is starting to sound like Thanos is going to be extremely powerful. Now, we have seen a couple of them. The Mind Stone, if you are confused, you become confused. But if you are already confused, you discard one card at random from your hand and place this card in the Infinity Stone deck discard pile. Space Stone? Discard cards on the top of the encounter deck until a minion is discarded, put it into play engaged with you, and then place this card in the Infinity Stone discard pile. So yeah, these are going to keep coming out and keep activating, and that's a bit harsh. We do also, we've got to look at a bunch of them. The Reality Stone, you discard an ally, upgrade, and I'm assuming that says all support you control, and then place this card in the Infinity Stone deck discard pile. The Soul, Time, and Power Stone, we don't have a great look, but it actually looks like Power Stone is going to stun you, and if you are already stunned, something else. Maybe discard a card from your hand, but Power Stone very much seems like it is just the opposite of Mind Stone, so it wouldn't... Oh no, there isn't really enough room there to discard a card from your hand. If you look at the text of the card, there isn't really enough room. It would be going on to the next line. So it stuns you. If you're already stunned, I don't know, take 2 damage maybe, or take a damage. Something along those lines. Time and Soul Stone. We know Time discards the top 4 cards of your deck, and then does something with Fret, but I wouldn't want to guess too much at this stage. Either way, these are going to keep coming out, and it is going to be a little bit harsh. To put it another way, Thanos has got high stats, and Stalwart and the Infinity Gauntlet is going to keep activating these stones as you go through the game. This is a lot, ladies and gentlemen. It is a lot. Now, we do also have a look at some of the heroes here, actually both the heroes. Starting off with Adam Warlock, we've got in Alter Ego mode, recovery of 3, hand size of 6, hit points of 11, all fairly standard. But we've got Avatar of Life. During deck building, your deck must include an equal number of cards from all 4 aspects. But you cannot include more than 1 copy of any non-Adam Warlock card. So we've seen a few heroes in the past, like Spider-Woman for instance, who can use multiple aspects, but this is taking it to a whole new level. You've got to have an equal number of all 4 aspects, but each card you play is limited to 1. If you are a deck builder, as I know a whole bunch of people are, this is going to be the kind of hero you should be very, very excited about. Oh yeah, and you also can discard a card from your hand to remove a status card. Confused or stunned, basically. You could, in theory, use it to remove Tough, but I don't know why you would. That seems like it could come in handy. We've then got a peek at the hero side. 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 defense. That is low. 2/2/2 is a standard, 1/1/2 is bad. But you've got an action that lets you discard 1 card from your hand. If it's aggression, you deal 2 damage. Justice, you remove 2 threat. Protection, you heal 1 damage from an ally. Bearing in mind, 90% of the time, that is just going to give you an extra activation from that ally. Or leadership, you give a hero +1 thwart, attack, and defense for the round. So sure, you've got terrible stats, but it does kind of come back to you there in terms of actually being able to have that really quite good skill. So then, of course, you've got just a whole bunch of other cards. We've got Living Tribunal, a 2-cost Justice event. You shuffle this card into the encounter deck without looking, as an action. But when it's revealed, you remove 2 threat from the main scheme and remove it from the game. This effect cannot be cancelled. Shield spell you can only play if your identity has the Mystic trait. It is a protection card, 0-cost event. When you would take any amount of damage from an attack, you discard that many cards on the top of your deck to prevent all damage. Okay, not bad. Do remember, of course, that when your deck runs out, you do take an encounter card. That is something you need to bear in mind. Now, we can also see Warlock's Cape, a 2-cost upgrade. This is a specific Adam Warlock card. And after you resolve your Battle Mage ability, that is your hero form ability, you exhaust the Cape to ready Adam Warlock. Yeah. So fine, the stats are bad, but you've got a ridiculous skill and you can ready yourself. That seems pretty good. Please do remember that Battle Mage is limited to once per phase, so your cape can't let you do it over and over. Mystic Senses is a 2-cost upgrade, and after you resolve Battle Mage, you draw a card. You're starting to see this Battle Mage skill is really working for you. Karmic Blast is a 2-cost event that deals 4 damage to an enemy and discards up to 4 cards on the top of your deck, dealing 1 additional damage to that enemy for each different aspect discarded in this way. So up to a total of 8 damage for 2 cost. Seems kind of good. Again there you've got the whole discarding your deck, getting closer to more encounter cards. There is very much a Scarlet Witch flavour coming on here with Karmic Blast. Quantum Magic is a 1-cost event, and it lets you choose a card in your discard pile to add that card to your hand. Bearing in mind we've already seen some very powerful cards here coming from Adam Warlock. Being able to recover any for 1 is pretty good, and it is any card in your discard pile. It doesn't need to be an Adam Warlock card, just any you've got there. Soul World is a 1-cost support. After your deck runs out of cards, you place 1 soul counter, but there's an alter ego action that lets you exhaust it, remove 1 soul counter, and heal all damage from your identity. So you've got this weird dual thing going on with Adam Warlock, where there are cards that will empty your deck faster, which gets you to encounter cards faster, which is a bad thing, just as Star-Lord. However, if you do run out of your deck, you've got a support sitting there that at basically whenever you like, will allow you to completely heal. I mean, come on. Having an action on a support that completely heals you, that is nuts. Nuts to the point I am going to be willing to take a couple extra encounter cards to get some soul counters on here, because fully healing? Yes. Absolutely yes. And there are a couple other cards we have been shown here with Doctor Strange on. Zone of Silence is a 1-cost justice event, which can only be played if your identity has a mystic trait. Limited to once during your deck, but remember Adam Warlock, everything's limited to 1, so you're cool. And it's got a hero action thwart that lets you choose a scheme and discard up to 4 cards to the top of your deck, removing 1 threat from that scheme for each card discarded this way. An important point to note here, of course, this is not however many different aspects you discard, it is just each card discarded. That sounds pretty good, but again, the downside is you're running out of your deck, but then again, you've got that lovely Soul World support card, so there is a lot going on with Adam Warlock. Oh yeah, and Summoning Spell is a 2-cost leadership event. Again, max 1 per deck, only if you've got the Mystic trait. But you can discard cards to the top of your deck until you discard an ally, and put that ally into play. Now this is going to depend on your deck, and again, running out of cards in your deck, bad for encounter cards, good for healing, etc. But being able to play a 4 or 5 cost ally for 2 cost, there are going to be some good ways to take advantage of this. And there are going to be some games where you know, hang on a second, I'm almost out of my deck, I know I've got a 5 cost ally left and it's the only one. Yeah. Moving over to Spectrum, we've got the Alter Ego Monica Rambeau. Free recovery, hand size of 6, hit points of 11, all pretty standard. At setup, you put all 3 energy form upgrades into play face down. We'll learn what they are in a second, I imagine. And there is a forced response after you change to this form. You turn all your energy form upgrades face down. So your energy form upgrades are going to come out easily, but in Alter Ego mode, they're face down. Going into Hero mode, we go down to a hand size of 5 as expected, and we have got terrible stats of 1, 1, 1. Now, having said that, we've seen heroes with 1, 1, 1 in the past. Quicksilver comes to mind, and shall we say, although it looked bad when we first saw Quicksilver, it's very, very much paid off in the end. So what do we have here? Energy Transformation is a forced response. After you change to this form, choose a face-down energy form upgrade, flip it face up to change to that energy form. Okay, we're going to need some examples. We've got them. Gamma is an energy form permanent. It gives you an extra 2 attack. And when you change to this form, you deal 1 damage to an enemy. So now you've still got terrible thwart and defense, but this is an attacker. Now, this is random, remember? They come into play face down, and you turn one face down, face up at random, which is a bit awkward, unless they've got different backs, but I can't imagine that they do. But then it turns you into a really good attacker. Photon gives you +2 thwart, and when you change to the form, you remove 1 threat from a scheme, so now you're a really good thwarter. And Pulsar gives you +2 defense, and when you change to this energy form, you heal 1 damage. So yes, when we start off, the stats are terrible, but you got 3 different energy forms, and each energy form basically makes you really, really good at one of the things. Not all of the things, at one of the things. And I'll tell you what, having 3 in a particular stat is clearly brilliant, and you've got those other skills there that really complement as well. Yeah. If you can't choose between them, arguably gets a little bit awkward, but oh my goodness, these can be very, very good. Now, we do have some fun little cards we can have a little bit of a look at as well. We've got Energy Duplication. It is a 2-cost upgrade. You exhaust it to generate the printed resource on your face-up energy form upgrade. So, for instance, Gamma would give you a physical resource, as an example. Yeah, that's going to get you an extra resource every turn. That sounds pretty good. Pulsar Shield is a 1-cost event with a hero interrupt defense. When Spectrum defends, you change to Pulsar energy form and ready Spectrum. If you were already in Pulsar energy form, she gains Retaliate 1. So you know how I said just a moment ago, if you can't choose between them, it's awkward? Obviously, there are going to be cards that let you flick between them. We have a lot of faith in the card designers for this game. They were always going to do this. We knew they were going to do this as soon as we saw the card. So it lets you basically change to your defense form and ready just in time to defend when you want to defend. Sounds good. Speed of Light is a 0-cost event that lets you change energy forms and draw a card. I am assuming, because it doesn't say face down, that you actually get to look and choose here, which is pretty good. Bearing in mind, all 3 of these forms have a when you change to this form skill. So being able to get that while drawing a card and getting the boost you want for 0 cost seems overly good. We've then got a couple of allies. I should mention Spectrum is clearly leadership out of the box, because I'm about to show you the final 5 cards we got to look at, and they're all leadership. Incidentally, right, if anyone thinks I'm going faster than usual, yes, we were shown 39 new cards. And I don't want to leave any of you guys hanging. White Tiger is a leadership ally here. 2 thwart or attack taking a damage I like. 3 cost 2 health I don't like. I don't like having health lower than my cost. But after you play White Tiger, you draw X cards, where X is equal to the villain's stage number. So if you're playing on expert mode and you've reached stage 3, draw 3 cards. Bearing in mind it's a 3-cost hero, it basically ends up, or ally, it basically ends up being free. Or she does, I should say. Yes! Absolutely. She for the character, it for the card. Kalu here is a 2-cost, 2 health ally. 1 thwart or attack taking a damage. All pretty weak if I'm honest with you. But after Kalu enters play, you search the top 5 cards of your deck for an event and add it to your hand. Okay. Cool. Cheap. Weak. Good skill. Works alright for me. Mighty Avengers is a 3-cost support. You play it under any player's control. Maximum 1 team card per player. And if each of your characters has the Avenger trait, each ally gets +1 thwart and +1 attack. This is obviously a card which is going to be super awkward in some decks. But as long as you're only playing Avengers, or you're playing solo and you're playing an Avenger, each of your allies gets +1 thwart and +1 attack. In a leadership deck, bearing in mind the whole point of leadership is, hey, let's build around allies, this is awesome. Power Man is a free cost, free health ally. 1 thwart, taking 1 damage. 0 attack, taking 2 damage. Hang on a second, that doesn't work. Well, Power Man enters play with 2 chi counters, and you discard any number of chi counters from Power Man, and he gets +2 attack for each chi counter discarded until the end of the phase. So essentially, for 1 turn only, Power Man is a 4 attack, taking 2 damage. So, stop me if you think I'm wrong here, but Power Man is blatantly going to be, comes in, does 4 damage, and then the usual thing, I don't think I'm the only one that does this. Oh, I've got an ally with 1 health remaining. I am just going to use this to block a villain's attack. And then finally, the 39th new card we can look at today is Mass Attack, free cost event. And again, leadership, obviously. You exhaust 3 allies you control that share a trait with your hero, and you deal X damage to an enemy, where X is the total attack of those allies and your hero. Now, it says exhaust 3 allies. It doesn't say exhaust your hero. This is gonna be nuts. There are decks you can make here where you can go stupid in terms of the amount of attack you're actually generating. It's gonna be nuts. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we do have a tentative release date of August. Remember, these release dates are never given as anything more than months. But it looks like in August, we're going to have Adam Warlock and Spectrum and all of the Black Order and Thanos. We are also specifically told 4 subsequent hero packs. We think we know what those are because we did have those leaks before. We'll get to them when we get there. For now, that is an awful lot of new information and an awful lot of new cards, and I'm frankly delighted I could share them with you. For now, I want to know how excited you are about this. I want to know which of these cards you're excited about. I want to know whatever you want to tell me. So go nuts in the comment section, would you? But be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk Marvel Champions and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.